Okay, good evening. Call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Inform the public that this meeting is being conducted via remote participation and not in person at Town Hall. First up on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we approve the minutes of the Board of Selectmen's meeting of May 26, 2020.
Great.
As printed.
Thank you. Do I have a second? All right. It's Mrs. Smith, I see that you just logged in, but you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself? Okay, I will second your motion, Ms. Riley, until Mrs. Smith works out her technical difficulties. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that is approved. Next up, department head and committee. First up is our health agent, Matt Tanis. Matt, any relevant updates for us?
Yeah, I actually have a bit here. On a good note, Raynham we've had no new positive cases for the last 3 days. And on a state level, throughout the state, we continue to be in a positive trend. Today, only 248 new confirmed cases. So that's good. We're heading in the right direction. Total for Raynham is 227 total confirmed cases. That 143 are now considered recovered, with 40 deaths, 4 of which are Raynham residents and the 37 from long-term care facilities. In speaking with Life Care, yesterday I had a lengthy phone call with them, and they have only 5 positive COVID remaining residents at this time, and All American has no positive residents. A new thing yesterday on the DPH daily dashboard for the cases, they are now including any probable and suspect cases. And yesterday was the first day which they did a retroactive back to March 1st. So there was a big spike, but not specific to the day. In Raynham, we have 26 probable or suspect cases. Those are people who had gone for the antibody testing and had tested positive, or early on before we had widespread testing, were a suspect case due to symptoms and close exposure to somebody that had been positive. So that's where we stand with that. I'm not sure if in the weekly reporting town by town, if that's going to be included going forward. DPH has not said anything at this time. So we'll see how that turns out tomorrow. Quite a bit of new guidance as we're going forward into phase 2, hopefully in the next week or two. A big one that actually will start tomorrow is visitation of residents within long-term care facilities. They're going to start to allow outdoor visitations. Of course, it'll be limited to, I believe, 2 family members of the resident. They'll have to maintain social distancing and will have to wear face coverings, but I think that will be a big help to those who have family within long-term care facilities going forward. And of course, that does not change any end-of-life situations going inside the facility. And other guidances which we're working through to get a full grasp on before phase 2 hits, certainly the restaurants and their outdoor service, which will be set to hit at the start of phase 2. And then they're discussing possibly allowing limited indoor dining later on in phase 2, as long as we continue to trend in a positive direction. We're working quite a bit with Tim McRae from Park and Rec regarding summer programs, and yesterday we finally received the guidance for what has to occur in order for summer camps and programs to go forward. So that's been shared with him. I met with Tim and had a brief discussion with the Park and Rec Commission tonight regarding those guidances and what any summer programs would look like for them going forward this year. Also been discussing town meeting, as I'm sure everybody's aware, we'll be up in less than 2 weeks. I'm just going to make sure that, again, it goes off safely and what it's going to look like. And just lastly, non-COVID related, ticks and mosquitoes are very much active. The mosquitoes it's predicted to be another active season. Next week, I have a conference call regarding the start of the mosquito season. And also, ticks are very bad this year. I had a webinar the end of last week, and it's predicted to be the worst season on record for ticks. So everybody just needs to be mindful when they're outdoors of the ticks and mosquitoes. So that's all I have.
Great, thank you, Matt. Any questions for Matt, Mrs. Smith? Are you with us, Mrs. Smith? Okay. Miss Riley, any questions?
Mr. Tanis, could you just repeat your first line there when you were giving the totals? I wasn't quite able to catch that. There's a little interference.
Oh, sure, of course. We've gone 3 days now in Raynham with no new confirmed cases. And we have a total of 227 confirmed cases within Raynham, and 143 of those have recovered, and we've had 41 deaths within Raynham. And today, the state reported 248 new confirmed cases. Of course, that does not factor in the probable.
Thank you, Matt, and thank you for all your efforts. You certainly have a lot to keep track of.
All right, great. Mrs. Smith, I'm going to check with you again. Any questions? Next up is our police chief, Jim Donovan. Jim, are you with us? Jim? Okay. Appointments, we have the reappointment of a constable, David DeCenzo, and in our packets, it's been approved by the police department. What's the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to reappoint David DeCenzo as a constable with the approval of the police chief.
Okay. Mrs. Smith, are you there? The second? Okay. I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's approved. The public hearing was scheduled for 7:15, so we have a few minutes to go before I can call that to order. So if there's no objection, I'm going to jump. All right. Town administrators report, Mr. Waters.
Sure. And also, just a quick, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if the chief is on a phone line. He might be one of the callers that are on mute. I'm not sure. But thank you. I have a quick report. The town hall outside painting is going to get underway soon. It's being funded by an article that was passed at the last year's town meeting. It's slated to be painted over the months of June and July, and coordination for this project is being handled by the building department and Selectmen's office. Town department heads were notified in an email that I sent out to them right before I left last week for vacation. The town meeting warrants were sent to the printer and should be mailed out to residents to arrive in the mailboxes by next week. And then the next regularly scheduled Selectmen's meeting, which will contain the pre-town meeting, is scheduled for Tuesday, June 16th at 7 p.m. Again, that's Tuesday, June 16th at 7 p.m. Again, via telemeeting. Instructions for public participation will be posted with the agenda. That is all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, just to clarify though, it will not be a selectmen's meeting. We start our summer schedule, so the purposes of next week's meeting will just be a pre-town meeting that the moderator will coordinate and run. All right.
All right, so
What's that?
Chairman, the pre-town meeting is June 9th, and then the Selectmen's meeting is June 16th.
Correct. So as we have voted a couple months ago.
Hold on 1 second.
Are you still with us, Graham? Okay, I will move on if Graham comes back. I'm not sure. It seems like a lot of people are having technical difficulties this evening. Selectmen's report. Mrs. Smith, are you there? Okay, she is still not able to get through for us. Ms. Riley, do you have anything?
I do, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I first want to send out congratulations to Bridgewater Raynham for their first very successful virtual graduation exercises, which could be viewed online as well as on our local cable channels last Friday. It appeared there was a major effort in putting that all together, and it was very well done. The students who spoke as part of the ceremony gave great speeches, as did high school principal Angela Watson, Superintendent Derek Swenson, and school committee chair Dr. Susan Prewandowski. I understand they're going to try to do something in person if possible later in the summer. I would like to give a shout out, Mr. Chairman, with special thanks to our school committee members for all of their volunteer efforts on behalf of our Bridgewater Raynham students, including members Michael Dolan, Richard Florence, Jason Hammond, and Lil Holbrook from Bridgewater, and members Tony Gelfi, Rachel King, Kevin Marrera, and chairperson Susan Prewandowski from Raynham. They spend many hours at meetings and don't often receive a thank you for what they do. This year, I'm sure especially challenging. So thank you to them as well as to our Bridgewater Raynham administrators, faculty, and staff. I'd also like to give a shout out to our cemetery superintendent, Brian Glavin. When I mentioned last week everyone who helped with our flag display for Memorial Day, I neglected to mention that Brian put the flags out lining the roadway in front of the Pleasant Street Cemetery, and that looked really nice. Of course, as I've mentioned before, the cemetery there is so well maintained. American flags were on all the graves of our many veterans who are buried there, and that was really nice. All I have at this moment, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, say that one last part one time, Miss Riley. You're breaking up on me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, maybe one last thing will be, have we given any thought to returning to town hall for our meetings? It seems like the technical difficulties seem to grow each week, and I think maybe consider at some point in the future we could return to town hall.
Absolutely. I mean, I think as soon as we're able to, it makes sense. My understanding is the 10-person gatherings are still prohibited, and I think we'd find ourselves in a precarious position. We'd have to come up with something to allow participation because we could be in a situation where we have to deny admittance. So I think we'll have to explore some options. The only town hall that I know, the only municipal building that I know of in a geographic area close to us that has now begun opening to the public is Mattapoisett. So I have been following that because I share your sentiment that I'd like to get back to town hall as soon as possible, but I want to do it when it's safe to do so. And obviously, the more people that are there, it's not only jeopardizing them, but our staff as well.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just as a possibility, even if we were to meet there and rather than have public actually coming in, having a phone line that they could call in on, at least that might make it a little step better in the right direction.
Sure, absolutely. I think we can work on it over the next couple of weeks and see maybe Tim Grabaz can reach out to the Raynham Channel and see from an IT standpoint what might be able to occur.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Riley?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Marie Smith. Mrs. Smith, under Selectmen's report, do you have anything?
No, I really don't, Joe. I just wanted to say that I did hear that the count was down today, which was a very good news. But I am so disturbed over what is going on in all of our communities with the protesting. I just hope that everybody, before they go to sleep tonight, can kind of think about what all this is going to end up to be like, and maybe say a little prayer or something that it will end peacefully. I'm really quite disturbed by it, and I think you all should be also.
Okay. Thank you. You're all set?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Thank you. I'll go back to department heads for a minute to see if Chief Donovan's with us. Chief? Okay. We still have 1 minute to go for the public hearing on the Selectmen's report. I have a couple things myself. Just wanted to update the public that last week the governor signed legislation titled Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, which in part significantly increases unemployment insurance benefits and it expands eligibility during the COVID-19 health crisis. That was passed and signed last week by the governor. Some relevant parts to the bill that it does to assist the public Of note, it eliminates the 50% cap for dependency allotment, providing additional benefits to low-income families. The increase, in addition to the $600 per week benefit add-on provided for in the CARES Act, will allow all workers eligible for state or federal benefits. It also increases unemployment benefit periods from 26 weeks to 30 weeks when there is a significant uptick in weekly unemployment claims, as is presently happening with the system. And it also is effective for 18 months after the end of the COVID-19 health crisis. And as I've done week after week, I would just urge folks who've lost income to reach out to the Division of Unemployment Assistance, because there are resources available to you should you need them. And I would encourage people to take advantage of that. In addition, this weekend, the Bristol Plymouth Senior Awards Night, they had a premiere night Thursday evening. I got to watch some of it. It was a great presentation. And on top of that, as you said, Ms. Riley, the ceremonies at BR, I think credit goes to all of our schools that Raynham participates in for getting creative and finding unique ways to recognize the accomplishments of our young residents because it's well deserved. I saw in Florida, a school did a graduation on jet skis, and we didn't get that creative, but it's nice to see that we're finding ways to interact with the students and let them know that their years of commitment aren't going unnoticed. So with that, that's all I have for my selectmen's report. The time is now here, and I can call the hearing to order, which is regarding barrels and boards for an alteration of premises and expansion of the liquor license. The hearing was posted in the Taunton Gazette. The Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, June 2nd at 7:15 p.m. via telemeeting. Instructions for telemeeting are posted on the agenda on the application of Barrels and Board Incorporated, 1285 Broadway, David Leghetto, manager, for an alteration of premises to include seating on the outdoor patio area in the front of the building. All interested persons will be heard at this time. This is a formal public hearing, even though we're not doing it in person. So how this will work for all those listening and the applicant, once I'm done with this, I'll turn it over to the applicant to make a presentation. I will then allow any residents or those who have called in to speak. If you're interested in speaking, please unmute your device and let me know who you are, meaning your name and address, one at a time. We will let you speak, and then I'll open it up to the boards for questions, comments, and a vote. So with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant. Mr. Leghetto, are you with us this evening?
I am, Joe.
Okay, great. So the floor is yours if you want to walk us through what you're looking to do, and then we can go from there.
Pretty simple. We have a 15 by 25 foot patio out in front. We just want to be able to put a table out there, well, probably 3 or 4 tables, an awning, and so serve food and alcohol out there. We've already spoke to the police department, the fire department, the building inspector, and now it leaves it up to you guys.
Okay. Is anything else you want to add? Or are you good on your end?
Say it again, Joe.
Are you good on your end? I don't want to cut you off prematurely on your presentation.
No, I'm good on my end as far as the front patio goes.
Okay.
I did have another question in regards to temporarily while we're not able to have inside seating, can we add additional seating outside, tents and things like that? Again, I'm not sure if it goes with what we're talking about now, but
yeah, we
I thought I'd bring it up.
I don't think we can take that in because the hearing was posted in particular based upon the proposal you submitted to us.
Sure.
So my suggestion would be let us take action on this tonight, and then we can go from there. Okay.
That works.
Now I'm going to open it up to the public for any questions or comments. Again, please try to do it one at a time and before you speak. And I recognize you, state your name and address. Mike, do you have anything on your end?
I do not, and every phone call is unmuted, so anyone can speak whenever they want to, and anyone on a computer has their own mute button. So if anyone were to speak, now is the time. The only question on Facebook was, why is Walmart closed? But that was answered by someone else, so that's all I have.
Thank you. All right, if there's no input from the public, I'll open it up to the board. Mrs. Smith, any questions or comments? Okay. Ms. Riley, do you have any questions or comments?
Just for clarification, Mr. Chairman, this is an existing outdoor patio area, is that correct?
My understanding is it's an existing outdoor patio area, but it's never been used as a seating area because the prior establishment had been denied their request to do it. So while the structure is existing, the use would be new.
Okay.
Joe, can I add to that?
Sure, yeah. This is David.
It is, yeah. It's
Okay.
an existing patio that's there. It's got railings up. It was permanent for decorative only before we came on board. So now that we're here and you know we're ready to go here, in the summertime's coming, we want to add to that and again be able to serve dinner out there and whatnot.
Sure. Any other questions, Ms. Riley?
No, Mr. Chairman, I would just like to make note of the recommendations that we've received from the building commissioner, Mr. Iafredi, that the existing occupant load of 216 must be maintained due to space and sanitary facility requirements. Access control must be created with gates that only allow egress and not ingress. Consumption of food and alcohol outdoors must be restricted to the designated raised patio area only. We have a recommendation from our fire chief, Mr. Brian LaCivita, that exit and egress ways remain clear and allow for safe evacuation. The occupant load does not increase. And our police chief recommendation to maintain a video monitoring system which covers the proposed outdoor seating area. So my question would be to the proponent if he is aware of and agrees to all of those recommendations.
Very much aware, and we comply to all of them.
Thank you.
Joe,
Anything else?
Joe,
Yeah, Mrs. Smith, go ahead.
okay. I just have one question. Is this going to interfere with the parking in the area? Is he gonna
Not at all.
park?
Mr. Leggett, can you just repeat that answer? I heard you, but I'm not sure if everybody else did.
It won't interfere with any parking whatsoever. The structure is already built. The parking lot's already designed. Doesn't interfere with anything.
Okay.
Anything else, Mrs. Smith?
Now,
Okay. All right. Most of my questions were answered, and as you alluded to, Ms. Riley, police, fire, and the building department have taken a look. One of the reasons I'll say that this property in particular had denials in the past is because of both concern of the neighbors, but also the concern previous boards had with the previous operating regime. We have a new regime over there, and as I understand it, have been doing really good things. They've been extremely cooperative with all of our town departments, specifically public safety. And I think this is an opportunity to allow a business to take advantage of the unique situations right now. And so I personally don't have any objections with that. If there's no other comments, I would open it up for a vote of the board.
Then, Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion to approve, again, with the conditions, the recommendations by the building commissioner, the police chief, and the fire chief.
Great.
I'll-
Right, a second.
making sure that everything is adhered to.
Yep. All right. So there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. That was a unanimous vote. Dave, if you want to coordinate with our office, your approval was voted on unanimously with the conditions that have been outlined by the department heads.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, that is it for public hearings. We've done the town administrator's report and the selectmen's report. Emergency business, COVID-19 related items. Mrs. Smith, anything?
No,
Ms. Riley, anything?
The only thing that I have, Mr. Chairman, and it's probably, I don't know if our town moderator is going to speak this evening, but I did call him yesterday with concerns about our annual town meeting. I received a few calls from residents, either who are concerned for themselves or for others who want to attend, would normally attend, but are not comfortable doing so under the shadow of COVID-19. The last caller I spoke with strongly urged me to ask the board to consider holding the meeting but postponing the vote on the non-routine articles. some of which could have a significant impact on the town going forward. I think our town moderator is maybe going to address that, but it's so difficult to know what's the best thing to do, because obviously if we were to have the meeting and postpone the action on the articles, you don't know what our situation will be 3 months from now. We could be in the same situation with the second wave of COVID-19. According to the governor, obviously those over the age of 65 are still supposed to be staying home, and that if people follow that guideline, that affects a lot of our residents and a lot of our regular town meeting goers. So it's a concern. Open to any ideas relative to that. I know, Mr. Chairman, several weeks ago, you had mentioned the possibility of having the meeting for the budget and financial matters and reserving action on the articles until a later date. I'm pleased that we'll be having a pre-town meeting discussion next week. That certainly will help with getting the word out there. So just some concerns. I don't know if you and Mrs. Smith share them or not.
Yeah, I actually had a lengthy conversation with the moderator this evening, and he was going to make an effort to sign on, but did give me permission to go over the contents of our conversation. And basically, they were around those concerns. I've received a few calls myself, echoing similar sentiment as you. And the moderator and I came up with what we think was probably the best way to handle this. And just to clarify, this is our last meeting until 2 weeks out. We start our summer schedule, so next week the board is not meeting. It will be a pre-town meeting only that the moderator will be running, not the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen will next meet on the 16th of June at 7 p.m. But we felt like, because next week is only a pre-town meeting and not a Selectmen's meeting, that would be a more appropriate place to have this conversation. It's not on the agenda this evening. And that will give an opportunity, because we'll allow public input, and the moderator will be discussing all the articles on the warrant. He'll go over some of the steps that he and the team have put in place so far to try to alleviate concerns and see if there's a consensus on how to handle it. Also recognizing that the board at this point could not cancel a town meeting. And so even if we come up with a consensus to only do what I had previously proposed, which was the budget, ultimately it's up to town meeting to dismiss the articles, because that would be the appropriate course of action. And so I think that is what the moderator and I worked out. And if that's amenable to you, Ms. Riley, and you, Mrs. Smith, I would say that would be, in our opinion, the best way to move forward, where everybody is going to be ready to talk town meeting next Tuesday and only town meeting.
I have no problems. That sounds like the right path, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Smith, are you okay with that?
Yes.
All right, great. No other COVID business? Okay. Citizen and community input, any? And Mike, let me know if you have anything on your side, please.
Nothing here, Joey.
All right, thank you. It doesn't look like we have any. I'm going to continue on new business. We had a letter and correspondence from Animal Control, which included their new monthly call log, and also discussing staffing issues. I did speak to the Assistant Animal Control Officer today, Ms. Brackett, and Ms. Brackett is going to take a few more weeks to put together some proposals. And when those proposals are formulated, she will reach out to us and request that conversation be on the agenda for discussion with the board. The month of May was busy for her, and that's kind of the nexus about it, as well as the fact, as the board knows, she's been by herself, as our animal control officer had resigned, I believe, back in mid-April. So she's been a one-person show. But I also want to take a moment to recognize her, because she's done phenomenal work. And after we spoke today, she sent me a picture of a couple raccoons that her and the sewer department had rescued, and she was feeding them from a bottle. So my appreciation goes out to Linda for the work that she's done on her own for the past couple of months. That's all we have for new business. Mrs. Smith, do you have any new business?
No, sir.
Okay, Ms. Riley, any new business?
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
All right, old business, review of town operations. Last week I had brought forward some concerns I had specifically around operations and the ability or lack thereof for our taxpayers to be serviced by departments when they have issues. The board had asked that it be tabled till this week, and so it is back on the agenda. How does the board want to proceed? Mrs. Smith, Ms. Riley, any input?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I do apologize because as a result of last week's discussion, I made the motion that we refer it to the town administrator for a report, and he was on vacation last week and did not know about it until he got a copy of the minutes today. So we might want to continue the discussion for another time. I would say that maybe maybe as a temporary solution anyway, so that you don't seem to get all of these complaints landing on your lap. Maybe with the voicemail for the different departments, at the end of the voicemail, there'd be an addition that if you need immediate attention, contact the selectman's office. I know you hear that on many voicemails that when you call a certain department, that they'll say, leave a message. If you need immediate attention, dial 0 or, a different extension. Maybe that might help people that can't get through immediately, can be referred to our selectman's office. And maybe also on the website, there might be also a mention too that if you have difficulty reaching a certain office, please contact the selectman's office, and the town administrator can facilitate some assistance for whether it's a business or a resident.
I think that could be a good temporary solution, but my concern with that, Ms. Riley, is staffing in our office. Last week it was just our assistant Deb. This week it's just Graham. And that's potentially putting a lot more on a 2-person office. In addition to that, some of the complaints that I've received are as a result of emails. People can go on the town website and submit an email, and it goes to that department head or that department employee only and nobody else. And so the voicemail, that's why I'm emphasizing it's only a Band-Aid approach. And I genuinely think with the more proactive approach long-term, but I won't object to continuing it for 2 weeks, but I would like to see it back on the agenda in 2 weeks, is to get clear understanding as to what the hours are, not just of some departments, but of all departments, and what the board's expectations are in terms of constituent requests and how timely those are going to be responded to. So
I did suggest this as a temporary, Mr. Chairman, and I think our town administrator has mentioned to us about returning to the full-time office work in the near future, so that might address the situation as well.
All right, so I will agree to that if you all agree to that. We'll put it on the agenda for 2 weeks out, because I think the public deserves us to hash this out.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Great, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next up is the continued discussion of the request from the building commissioner for modified permitting of outdoor liquor licenses. The
Mr.
building
Chairman?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, when you finish this point on the agenda, with this item on the agenda, I need to discuss with the board town operations. I thought this item, the previous item on the agenda, was that item. So once we finish the discussion, could we revisit town operations?
Sure.
And it would be town operations moving forward.
Yep, that's fine. So the liquor licenses, the building commissioner had proposed streamlining them and allowing him, in concert with Board of Health, Police, and Fire, to allow outdoor seating and liquor licenses. I've done some research, and it doesn't seem like that would even be legal, and I still have my concerns about the viability of it. My understanding and interpretation, based upon talking with other communities and some attorneys, is that as the local licensing authority, we cannot cede that to another entity. What we could do is allow the building department to issue permits for outdoor seating, but anybody who wants an alteration of a liquor license to pour outside would have to come before the Board of Selectmen as the local licensing authority to do a modification of a liquor license. This is substantiated by, in my opinion, state law, state statute, and also pending legislation that would modify the liquor license statute and allow only the approval of the local licensing authority and not just the ABCC as well. I looked at a number of different communities who are going down a similar path, and they are proposing a similar concept whereby the building department, in concert with the previously mentioned departments, can allow modified outdoor seating, but when it comes to liquor licenses, the applicant would have to appear before the licensing authority. One community in particular that I thought was really onto something, which is the town of Norwood. was waiving permitting fees for restaurants to set up outdoor seating, but still requiring them to go for the liquor license. And so that's what I would present to the board as compromise to assist our businesses, but also where we comply with state law.
Well, I don't know. I mean, really, it's only a matter of a short period of time, and under the certain conditions that we're in, I can't see where it's any such a big deal.
Ms. Riley?
Your
I don't-
checks with every- Go ahead.
I don't personally have a problem with it, but if you're saying, Mr. Chairman, that your research indicates that it would be violation of state law, we certainly don't want to go that route. But I have a question along that line too. I know as part of the reopening plan is restaurants outdoor seating. Does that require a permit from the town? Do we have any control over whether it's on the sidewalk or in the parking lot? Do we have any control over that?
Well, we do, and that's actually what we just did for barrels and boards. That has always been our process. And so what the modified process would be, instead of having a hearing, it would allow the building department to accept the plans and work with the relevant departments and issue an approval for the expansion of seating, whether that be substituting seating from the inside to the outside, and where the locus of the outdoor seating would be. And those are things that I think are absolutely fine and within our ability to let the department heads handle. What I don't believe is in our purview is to forego our responsibility under state law to be the local licensing liquor authority.
So your concern is with the alcohol segment of it. I'll go along with that.
Yeah, I think that we should do whatever we can to help our businesses, and I think we, along with almost every other community, can do that by streamlining outdoor permitting for seating. But when it comes to licensing, I think state law is clear. You have to do a modified license, and that modified license has to go to the ABCC. The only people who can sign off on a license are this is a local licensing authority, and I've seen no state statute that allows us to designate that authority to a different department or employee.
So, do we need a motion, Mr. Chairman, for the permitting process as far as the outdoor
Yes.
seating?
Yes,
I'll make
so-
that a motion.
Go ahead, sorry.
I'll make that
You
as a
know,
motion.
How long is that going to take, Joe?
How long would what take?
For them to then come in and apply for a license and apply for a whatever and get it through the ABC.
Well, it's not just us, it's also the ABCC. So we only control a portion of it, but our meetings are always posted. And if people who have liquor licenses want to get them modified, all they have to do is fill out the packet, just like Barrels and Board just did. We schedule a hearing, we have the hearing, and if there's no reason to deny it, we would deny it, and then it would go to the ABCC for approval. There is pending legislation in the House of Representatives right now that would allow for the local authority to do the approval only and not need the state approval. But no matter what we did, the state still has to approve it. So we only control the timeline so much.
Pat, you had a motion?
Yeah,
Yes,
there was a motion to approve the ability, I believe, Ms. Riley, for the building department in concert with relevant departments to allow outdoor seating, but anybody that would need liquor would have to come to the board. Would that be a correct summation?
that is, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All
Yes,
in
go
favor?
ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
That's approved. Thank you. Mr. Waters, you town operations?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe I briefed the board last time. I don't recall exactly about moving to a minimum of 19 hours. It might have been in one of my reports. I had a conference call with department heads not too long ago about the minimum 19 hours, and then also at that time bringing up the date of June 22nd for returning to full time. That date was picked out after discussions with the health agent, Matt Tannis, and a couple of employees It is the first Monday after online schooling ends for the town, for the Bridgewater Raynham School District. So with that, I wanted to run by the board returning employees to full-time on June 22nd and get your input or feedback on that specific date.
Okay. So what are you looking for us to do?
Just if there's any problem with returning employees full-time back to June 22nd, we're not anticipating an opening to the public. That is another point that I'd like to discuss with the board. But just right now, returning all full-time employees back to full-time status starting June 22nd for town departments. Right now, there's limited scheduling still in place.
I personally have no issues with that. My only question would be, when this was originally brought up, we had requested a proposal from you and the health agent on it. And one of the things I'd be curious about is, as we return employees to work, are we increasing any type of cleaning services? I think we should be getting staff back to work. I hope the board would agree that stuff is starting to fall through the cracks, and that's not okay. But I want to make sure that as staff return to work, we have some additional safety measures in place to ensure their safety.
Mr.
Sure.
Chairman,
I believe Matt is still on the line.
Mr. Chairman, there's a few things that need to be worked out yet. I believe it was last week or 2 weeks ago now. As part of the reopening process, the state had released guidance regarding office spaces and being held at a 25% capacity max. And that has to be put into place by or before July 1st. It's come up countless times on my conference calls with DPH and DLS regarding that 25% capacity, and it does apply to municipal offices at this time. With the exception of any office that is essential for COVID-19 purposes, which would be Board of Health, Police, and Fire. I'm not sure where the state's reasoning is on it, but they're holding pretty firm. I'd even requested the specifics for it in writing, which Mr. Ron O'Connor from DPH had sent to me, I believe it was last week. So that's something, there's a couple offices that will exceed that percentage if everybody returns full time. So there's some things that on that end. And also certainly the cleaning measures. We have, at this point, everybody pretty much wearing masks, plenty of hand sanitizer, things like that, wipes available for use within town hall. I think another piece of all this would be allowing the public to enter town hall. And speaking with several of area health agents last Thursday, just kind of getting a feel for what other towns were doing. It seemed like we're pretty much in line with people, the town employees coming back in the schedule and time frame for that. It seems like a lot of towns in the near future, in the next either week or so, will be starting to allow residents or business owners, people that have business conduct within town hall, to come in on a appointment only basis, and it would be, you'd have to show us the need to have to actually come into town hall. So like paying a tax bill, unless there was an issue that you had to discuss further that couldn't be handled on the phone, that wouldn't be acceptable. But if somebody had to come in and you had to review plans, say the building commissioner had to review plans for a specific project that couldn't be done over the phone or via email, that would be acceptable, again, by appointment only. And then again, further opening up more to the public later in June or July 1st. But certainly with a lot of restrictions in place, mainly keeping people out of the individual offices and trying to keep them in the hallway. Some of the offices already have window setups that would accomplish that. The clerk's office, treasurer collector, and the assessors, but some of the other offices would have to be retrofitted with some type of barrier to keep the people in the hallway to maintain some type of social distancing and keep the ability to clean town hall at an easier path. So I don't know if that helps at all.
Yeah. What I would suggest, and if it's amenable to the board, is, as I've said previously, our next meeting is 2 weeks out. I think what would make sense, at least in my estimation, is I think staff should be prepared to come back on the date that Mr. Waters provided. But what I would like, and I think would be helpful to the board, is that we get a formal written report from the two of you for our next meeting on the 16th that we can review ahead of that meeting, have a discussion on during that meeting, and take action on during that meeting. So what I think it should include is what the staffing levels will be, operating hours, provisions in place to make sure that the facility stays clean and sanitary, and things along those lines. And so that is what I would propose to the board for us to move forward on, because right now I have nothing in front of me to rely upon. I've asked for a report on this, and it helps me personally to have stuff in writing and not just do it orally, because that's when confusion happens.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Right. Do I have
Go
a second?
along with,
Is that a second, Mrs. Smith?
yes, there's something wrong with whatever I'm doing here, because I'm not hearing half of what you said. But I heard what you just said, and I agree with you.
Great. So Matt and Graham, for the 16th, you should provide us with a report as to what the safety measures are going to be in place, staffing levels, the whole 9 yards, and get it to us in advance of the meeting so we have time to digest it.
Absolutely.
Okay, and, but the board is okay with keeping June 22nd as returning employees to full-time status?
Yep, that was part of the motion. So all in favor of that? I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. All right. Anything else, Graham, on town operations?
No, that was it.
Great, thank you. All right. If there's nothing else on the old business, performance of administrative duties, approval of the town of Raynham invoice and payroll warrants dated June 2nd. What's the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to approve and ask the town administrator to sign on behalf of the board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Next is approval of the Raynham police invoice and payroll warrants dated June 2nd.
And again, I make a motion to approve and authorize the town administrator to sign on behalf of the board.
Second.
I will abstain. All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session with no business thereafter.
I'll make that
Joe.
motion for the record in,
Joe.
1 second,
Oops.
who's that?
Jim Donovan.
Oh, hi, Jim.
Joe, can you hear me? Jim Donovan.
Yeah,
Yep.
I
I've
can
been
hear
here the
you.
whole time. I don't know why it's not working.
Okay, is the board okay taking Jim before we adjourn?
Absolutely.
All right, thanks. Go ahead, Jim.
I'll be very brief. In the month of May, the police department responded to 1,663 calls. There were 348 911 calls, and there were 28 bookings. Probably the biggest, most important thing is our full-time employee that tested positive for COVID-19 in early April was able to return to work mid-May, finally tested negative. Right now, we do have one part-time employee that tested positive in early May and is still testing positive now, and hopefully be cleared soon. And that's all I have. We're preparing for town meeting with town moderator.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the chief, Mrs. Smith?
I have none.
Miss Riley?
No, I have none. Just thank you, Chief, and all the members of your department for everything you do to keep us safe and for making us proud of our Raynham police.
All right, Miss Riley, I'll take you back on that motion that you had started.
Yes, and
Excuse me, Joe.
Oops.
Excuse
Yeah.
me. I'm sorry. Can you hear me? This is
Yeah,
Marcia.
Hi, Marcia.
I'm sorry. I've been trying to get in and I can't. I don't think you can hear me. You couldn't hear me before. I talked to Mike Halen. I think he did something so that you could hear me. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. And is there any objection from the board that we take the town clerk?
No objection.
Thank you. All right,
Thank
go ahead.
you. I'm sorry. I'll make this quick. It was just about the town meeting warrant. there was the special town meeting warrant was posted June 1st. It was given to us on June 1st. So it says May on the warrant, but it had to be changed to June 1st when it was posted. So I just wanted you to know that we had to change that. Okay, on the special town meeting, the June 15th special town meeting.
Okay,
So our constable changed it to June 1st.
great. So
And,
that it's been posted and adjusted accordingly?
Yes. It wasn't given to us until Monday to post. So we had to change the date to June 1st. I just
Okay.
wanted you to know that.
Okay.
And I also wanted you to know, talking about if bylaws are approved at the town meeting, if we vote for them, I don't think it's going to be a problem, but I just wanted you to be aware of it. The annual town meeting warrant and the closing, it says it was posted 14 days before the meeting, and the bylaw is 7 days for the annual town meeting. I mean, it's certainly within the time because it was posted June 1st as well. But the Attorney General does get all these things and they check the dates. So I just wanted you to be aware of that if anything is passed at town meeting. I can check with the Attorney General to see if it would be a problem. I don't think so because it's 14 days. Obviously, it's more than 7, but it does say 14. I just wanted you to know.
Great. Any questions for the town clerk, Mrs. Smith?
No.
Ms. Riley?
No, I have none.
All right. Do we want the clerk to check with the AG's office on what she presented to us?
Sure, I have no problem with that.
Great. All right. If you don't mind doing that, Masha, that would be great then.
No, I'll check tomorrow. Okay, thank you.
All right, Ms. Riley, back to you again.
Yes, and for the record, motion to go into executive session in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, and to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and to return to open meeting only to adjourn.
Great. Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.